Hello, friends. Welcome to the Forensic Journal, where we tell some of the most bone-chilling stories, explore conspiracy theories, and compare stories on crime cases, unsolved mysteries, and cover infamous forensic mysteries. My name's Zoe, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Tristan.
What happens when a group of experienced hikers suddenly disappear from their campsite in the Ural Mountains of Russia, or when their bodies are found flipped inside out with blunt force trauma far too severe to be caused by any human? What made these experienced hikers run out of their tents almost half naked and below freezing temperatures, and what happened to their bodies?
In a small town near Ural, Russia, a 23-year-old radio engineering student at a local university, now Ural Federal University, assembled a group of 9 others for a trip, most of whom were fellow students and peers at the university. The initial group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, but one member later returned because of health issues. Each member of the group was an experienced hiker with ski tour experience and will be receiving Grade 3 certification upon their return.
Now, at this time, Grade 3 was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union and required candidates to traverse 300 kilometers. The goal of the expedition was to reach an area called the Ortorten, a mountain 6.2 miles north of the site where the incident occurred. This route was estimated as a Category 3. What was at that time the most difficult to traverse. On January 23, 1959, the Dyatlov group was issued their route pack books, which listed their course following the number 5 trail.
January 27th was when their trek began towards Gora Orton, where one member who had severe health ailments turned back because of knee and joint pain that wouldn't allow him to continue the hike. Soon, on January 31st, the group would arrive on the edge of a highland area and begin to prepare for climbing. When they would reach a wooded valley, they would cache surplus food that would be used on the trip back.
The next day, the hikers started moving through the pass. It seemed they had planned to get over the pass and make camp the next night on the opposite side. But because of worsening weather conditions, snowstorms, and decreased visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west towards the top of Sakal, aka Dead Mountain. Once they reached and realized their dire situation, the group decided to set up camp there on the slope of the mountain rather than move 1.5 kilometers down the hill to a forested area, which would have offered some shelter from the weather. One of the investigators, or close friends of his, as it's not clear, speculated he did this either to not lose their gained altitude or practice the mountain slope camping.
Overnight, something caused the group to cut their way out of their tent by knives and flee the campsite, barely dressed for the heavy snowfall, strong winds, and extreme cold temperatures as low as negative 40 degrees Celsius, leaving everything else behind. After the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet authorities determined that 6 of them had died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had been killed by physical trauma. Trauma so severe, one victim had major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in his skull.
4 of the bodies were found in May 1959, lying in running water in a creek, and 3 of them had damaged the soft tissue of the head and face. 2 of the bodies had missing eyes, 1 had a missing tongue, and 1 had missing eyebrows. The investigation concluded their deaths were unknown, compelling natural forces.
However, a few theories have been put forward to account for the unexplained deaths, including animal attacks, avalanche, or loud slab avalanche to their tent, appearance of a UFO or ball lightning, combative winds, infrasound included panic, conflict with local ethnic groups or fugitive criminals, a botched spy meeting from the representatives of the Western Bloc, military rockets, and nuclear testing involvement, or some combination of these factors.
Russia reopened the investigation into the incident in 2019, concluding in 2020 that an avalanche was most likely forced the victims to suddenly leave their camp in low visibility conditions with inadequate clothing before ultimately dying from hypothermia. Andrei Kurikov, deputy head of Regional Prosecution Office, stated that it was a heroic struggle. There was no panic, but they had no chance to save themselves under the circumstances. A study led by scientists of EPFL and ETH Zurich, published in 2021, suggested that a type of avalanche known as a slab avalanche could explain some of the injuries.
Additionally, the investigation emphasized that the terrain and weather conditions that night could have made the avalanche difficult to detect until it was too late. Because the snow in Dyatlov Pass region can settle in layers, even a small shift in the wind pressure or weight on the snowpack might have caused it to collapse. This would have forced the hikers to cut open their tents and escape immediately, just as the investigators described.
While this explanation fits many parts of the mysteries, such as sudden exit from the tent and severe injuries to some of the hikers, critics argue that the slope wasn't that steep enough for a typical avalanche. However, researchers at ETH Zurich countered this by showing that even very gentle slopes can produce slab avalanches if the conditions are just right. Their computer simulations indicated that the weight of their hikers' bodies and their gear inside of the tent may have added enough pressure to trigger the event. Still, despite the new evidence supporting the avalanche theory, not everyone is convinced. Some experts point out the inconsistencies, like why was there no clear signs of a major snowslide at the site where the rescuers arrived weeks later. Others argue that hikers' strange injuries, missing clothing, and disorganized tracks suggested additional factors beyond just the avalanche.
Come back next week for new stories or even crazier cases and more forensic mysteries.